Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Hoque Voice once again. Today we are very much happy to get a media scholar who is a Bangladeshi and who has been teaching media and English language in a prestigious UK university. Today we want to actually introduce him to our guest. Uh, we have Dr. Salman Al-Azmi. Sir, could you please introduce yourself to our audiences?
Thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Salman Al-Azami. I completed my BA, MA, and PhD in linguistics from Aligarh Muslim University. After that, I came back to Bangladesh and I did some teaching in some private universities in Bangladesh. Before moving to the UK in 2004, I did a postdoctoral research, and then I did some part-time teaching in different universities until I joined my current university in 2008 as a full-time teacher in English language and linguistics initially, but then later on I moved to media and communication. So I'm now teaching in the media and communication and research mostly on Islamophobia in the media, in the British media and in Western media. I also have do research on political discourse, South Asian popular culture, multilingualism, and multiculturalism. So many different areas, but my main focus is on Islamophobia in the media.
Since you are from South Asia, especially you're from Bangladesh, would you like to say a little bit about the kind of challenges Bangladeshi people have been through during the last 16 years, especially the leaderships from the Islamic, politically religious Muslim leaders during the last 16 years, and how actually they were under tremendous amount of injustice due to the continuous propaganda against them. Could you please tell us a little bit about that particular media war against particular leadership of our country?
Yeah, I mean, what we witnessed during the Hasina regime is a combination of media trial and political, I would say, political vandalism that they perpetuated against Islamic leaders, Islamic political leaders. So, in particular, Jamaat Islami, who they thought, and they were always thought as their very strong rival. So they have done a witch hunt. The media propaganda was at a relentless level. The media propaganda didn't start just when Hasina took over. It was always there. But media propaganda went to a different level during the last 16 years. And that, you always will see, even in the Western world, there's always a politics media nexus. And this nexus is very dangerous in the way that these politicians and the media, they scratch each other's back. And in that process, they find a common enemy. So the common enemy, it comes from, Noam Chomsky and Herman's very famous book, Manufacturing Consent. It talks about the propaganda model where they need to have an enemy to target and to just develop that or manufacture that consent for their political ideology. So Islamic leaders were a natural target. One of the things they used against Islamic leaders, particularly Jamaat Islami leaders, is 1971. So they used that as their backdrop for trying to portray that they were war criminals, or they committed crimes against humanity. And as you can see, just yesterday there was a verdict on one surviving Jamaat leaders. All others who were arrested have been either killed, or they killed or murdered through judicial killing, or they passed away in jail. But there was one surviving leader who was acquitted yesterday in the Bangladesh Supreme Court, who acknowledged that the Bangladesh court did not follow proper procedure in terms of the fair trial. So this was a very important tool against Islamic leaders, and the media trial, even before the so-called International Crimes Tribunal processes started way back in 2011-12, they always gave verdicts that these are war criminals. These people did. So the hearsay was the most important thing. So if you are a journalist, so one of the basic things you have to do is you have to gather evidence, and you have to find out what is true and what is not true. And as a journalist, it's your responsibility to hold the authority or the people of power to account in terms of what they are doing. So what their role should have been at that time when Awami League and Hasina was pursuing cases against these leaders is that hold them to account and say, where do you have the evidence? Or the way the ICT, the International Crimes Tribunal procedures took place, they should have challenged them, saying that the way you are presenting it, the way you are doing it is not acceptable, because internationally, all international humanitarian organizations, law organizations, and many research publications showed that there are serious flaws in the law that led to the prosecution and eventual judgments, and also in the ways that the defendants were treated, the witnesses were treated, the Skype scandal that we all know about. So all these things prove that this was a completely vindictive process or to malign the opposition or to kill those people. So as media, their responsibility was to hold them into account. Rather, they did exactly the opposite. They actually perpetuated this. They actually became an echo chamber. They became a sort of a mouthpiece for the government propaganda against these Islamic scholars and leaders. And
I mean, to counter that very particular vindictive narrative, what the other side of this, group, they could have done? What was their success, and how they have failed to do that successfully? I would say they have not been able to.
You mean the Islamic groups?
Right.
You mean the Islamic groups?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, of course, they have not been able to convey the message to the world this much strongly. Yeah, come up with.
The Islamic groups, they tried their best to protest, but you can see that everyone knows that there was no freedom of speech in Bangladesh. There was no way people could protest. As you know, when the first verdict against Maulana Dilwar Hussain Saidi came out, around 200 people were killed when people started to protest. So even when Hifazat Islam came out with processions against the way Prophet ﷺ was portrayed by some of the leaders of the Shahbag movement, then there was serious massacre took place on the 5th of May 2013. So no dissenting voice was allowed to be raised, and whenever someone tried to raise it, they were killed, or they were enforced disappearance took place. People were extrajudicial killing took place. So, and we all know what happened in July, 36 days of July in 2024. How only within 3 weeks, around 1,500, mostly young people, were murdered. So in that way, the people did try to raise their voice, but they could not.
Okay, of course. But when we look at newspapers, especially the English news dailies, if we want to ask how many English news dailies we have got from the site who have been subjugated and suppressed for last 16 years, we don't have a single English news daily this way. Okay, you are one of the editors of magazine. You tried your little best, but at this very moment, as we can see the situation here in Bangladesh, we're expecting it to get better, but Indian propaganda has been so much aggressive that we don't have any mouthpieces for our side. We're trying our level best to get out of it. What are the mechanism we can actually apply to get our voices heard?
The foundation for voices to be heard is you have free press. So freedom of expression and free press is a foundation. I think this government, led by Professor Yunus, I think they are, current government has been one of the most liberal and open to criticisms. So I think everyone is able to express freely within the last 9 months, 9.5 months. So I think that we are enjoying freedom of expression, freedom of press at the moment in Bangladesh, but that was never the case. Even before Sheikh Hasina's regime started in 2008-9, they were not very free. So what we need to see, I mean, you raised about Indian media propaganda. The Indian media propaganda is at I would say at an epic level. The way, I mean, even now recently I saw a clip on social media where Aaj is a famous Indian news agency which when I was studying in India I knew about it. It was quite authentic in a sense of the way of the producing news, but it is now most of the Indian news media have become what they call Godi media. So Godi is a Hindi term referring to someone who is in the lap of someone. So they are all in the lap of Modi and his all the cons that we have in the Indian government, the BJP and the RSS. So
okay, on this very note, you are an expert on Islamophobia. How media has actually spread Islamophobia. Could you please stress your conversation from 2013 up to 2024? How the Islamophobia and antagonism and hatred against Islamic leaders were seriously harbored here in our media. And
yeah, I mean,
despite all the injustice against them.
I would say that the way, how does Islamophobia manifest? That's the important thing. So Islamophobia manifests, for example, in the West in a very different way than it happens in a Muslim country like Bangladesh. So in the West, Islamophobia is manifested, for example, in the media, trying to say that Muslims are problems, Muslims are terrorists, Islam is a problem, Islam is non-compatible, Muslims are non-compatible with the Western way of life. So some of the things that we research on here in terms of the British media, how they represent. But in a country like Bangladesh, where 90% people are Muslim, they can't say Islam is a problem. So the way they manifest their Islamophobia is through images, through portrayals of, for example, if you watch a TV drama, most of the time they would portray someone with a Islamic hat and beard as a very bad person. Okay, that's not been started now, not in the Hasina's regime. Throughout, you can see throughout the Bangladesh history, the worst type of guy, the people who are criminals, who are bad, have beard and cap, Islamic cap. Whereas, so when I used to teach in Bangladesh, I used to ask my students that, okay, who are the people who you see around you with beard and cap? For example, the imam of your mosque or the muaddin of your mosque. And what type of people are they? Are they the worst type of people? Are comparatively better than many others? All agree that they are comparatively better than many others. So you will not find majority of the people who wear the cap and who have beard as bad as many other people. But disproportionately, you are showing that the people, so who is a sort of an image? What is the image of a bad guy? Someone with a cap and beard. So when they wanted to portray the Islamic leaders as bad, okay, so they put this cap with a Pakistani flag, okay, or with a demonic face with big teeth. So in the media, so they're all Islamic leaders, okay, and they want to show them as bad people, as worst type of people. So their style of portraying, presenting is Islamophobic, but not overtly Islamophobic. They are not saying that we are against Islam. They are not, but they're trying to. So I remember a long time ago, they were asking a question. There was an election, 1996. So Jamaat Islami was, competing in the election, and in the, there was a TV debate or TV questions. I remember the name of the program was Shabinoy Jante Chai, something like that. So we want to ask you some questions. So they brought all the different political parties. The Jamaat was also brought. Then they asked question, oh, if Jamaat wins the election, will you cut the hand of a thief? Will you impose this? Will you do that? Will you impose Sharia law? Now, the way you are asking these questions, these are Islamic concepts. So you are asking in such a way that there will be a fear among the people that, well, if they come to power, they'll do this. But these are Islamic concepts, but which are very conditional in terms of within an Islamic state. There are a lot of strong conditions under which some Islamic Sharia penalty codes are implemented. But the day when they're asking questions that Islamic issues are the problematic issues. So that is the manifestation of Islamophobia they have. So, and then also you can see that how, different festivals, for example, our, Bengali New Year festivals, how they were portrayed in the media as what a wonderful occasion. But you can see that there is a very strong Islamophobic underpinning in those events, or our cultural industry in particular is extremely Islamophobic. And our, our films, our TV dramas, they're very, very Islamophobic. There are a lot of instances of Islamophobia.
Yes, I want to ask you with regards to the movement which has got the success as July and August Revolution was actually brought out by Gen Z. Gen Z has got an issue with identity crisis. They have got communication gap with their generation boomers, and generation Z. They are very much, impacted or influenced by social media, right?
Yeah.
So in the social media context, the portrayal of the leaderships and the political Islam or religious view of Islam here in Bangladesh for last 16 years was considered to be something like worse than animals. That was considered subhumans. Okay, whoever was considered to be some sort of taking out any kind of religious symbols or religious issues, he is some way considered Razakar or collaborators of or 1971 or something like that. So how can Gen Z actually get out of this absolutely horrible identity crisis with their religious identity at this very moment, facing all the media trials? What would you say about it?
Well, first of all, I think there is a positive thing in terms of what I witnessed post-revolution in 2024. For example, there were a lot of Qawwali events in different universities. So that shows that there is a positive direction, that some things that were suppressed previously. So in Dhaka University campus, there are a lot of Islamic events, Qawwali events, and celebration of prophets, Eid Miladun Nabi, and all these things taking place. That shows that our generation Z is in the right track, on the right track. But the problem is there is a lot of problem in terms of education and knowledge and understanding. And as you are saying, the social media is full of a lot of propaganda materials. So people should not conflate Islam and 1971 at all. So there were Islamic political parties and also left political parties who opposed the independence movement in 1971 because they didn't want to be a part of Indian hegemony. That is a very different discussion, and we are not going into that. But I'm trying to say that if you bring that one into the discussion in the current political climate and divide people, and then you say that these Islamic groups are pro-1970, against the Bangladesh independence, or pro-Razakar, and these people are not, as someone who was born way after, like you, way after 1971, what does your people of your age got anything to do with 1971? Even me, I am 58 years old. I was only 5 years old when Bangladesh got independent. So I have very little memory of, what happened during that time, let alone take part in it. So what am I going to do with 1971? Okay, but if you want to, divide people, that are people with
But they are
Islamic
putting the
political
blame
organization.
of 1971 on the people who were born after 1971, even though there are sophisticated history that need to be
Yeah,
revised. I want to ask about
so that's what
1971
I'm trying to say,
sophisticated
is
history.
that as long
Yeah,
there have been
I'm talking
trials,
about
right?
the identity crisis of the Gen Z, identity
That's what
crisis
I'm
of the
trying to
Gen
say,
Z who
that
wants to
I have seen some of
practice
the
Islam.
leaders of NCP coming out with the same narrative as Awami League, unnecessarily, without knowledge, without really proper understanding, because they wanted to jump on the bandwagon of this so-called pro-independence ideology, which doesn't exist in Bangladesh, or pro-Pakistani or pro-Indian. What pro-Pakistani? One of the advisors came up with this weird Facebook status, which created a lot of controversy at that time, and now he
So
regrets.
on this
He
note, I
apologized
want
for
to
it.
actually add something to your question, to
Yeah.
your answer to my question. That is, there is a mainstream English newspaper here in Bangladesh. Over there, if you are interviewed as a journalist, you must be part of a leftist political party. Either your parents or your siblings need to be member, need to serve there in some way, or you have to be their member when you are 30 years of age, 1 3, right? So the English newspapers like this one, they are so much anti-Islamic or Islamophobic. They're in a majority Muslim country. They don't want to. I have seen a number of great prestigious institutes. They invited someone from UK, from USA. When they invented that very boy, he has got great results in his graduation and post graduation everywhere, but somehow his family members are coming from Muslim religious backgrounds, or he was in any madrasa in his whole lifetime, then they are simply rejecting him at the very last stage. This has been the proven, and it's well documented in prestigious university and English newspaper daily. Now, if this is the case, what will happen to the other? What will you say about it,
Well,
sir?
we have to. I mean, yeah, I heard that incident about that one person who left his job at Oxford probably, and wanted to join a university in Bangladesh, and then when they came to know that he had a madrasa background, they terminated his contract. Uh, I mean, I don't know the details of it. That I heard in newspapers or on social media. And the other one you talk about newspaper, I don't know if it is officially their policy, but implicit policy could be like that in Bangladesh. That has been for a long time. And your background will be checked, and if you are from an anti-Muslim or anti-Islamic background, you will have preference over someone who has a practicing background. This is unfortunate, but our Generation Z, the new generation, they have to change that. So it is good to overcome a dictator, a fascist government. There's always this thing that gaining independence is
I
easy,
mean, sir, these
maintaining
are the
it.
people who
Let me
actually
finish this.
stand
Let me
slogans.
finish.
This
Let me finish this.
These are the people who
Gaining
stand slogan for
independence.
the progressivism,
Yeah,
pluralism, and globalism. They say we welcome all opinions, we respect all opinions. There is a slogan in journalism, as I know, the freedom of expression is something for which I profoundly and politely disagree with you, but I'm ready to die for you. But these are the progressive voices. They consider themselves progressive, but they're acting like they're profoundly fundamentalist in character, even though they are considered by themselves as secular liberal Democrats. But they
yeah,
are
yeah.
acting far worse than the religious fundamentalists.
If I can finish what I was saying, and yeah, I completely agree with you. But
Of course,
you were
please
asking
move
me,
on.
what is the solution to this? Solution, for example, what I was trying to say is that gaining independence is easier than maintaining independence. As we can all see in the last 9 months, the things that our country is going through. So our younger generation, our Generation Z, has to understand what is their identity. Okay, it's good to have study circles and all these intellectual discussions on whatever that some of the student leaders were involved in. But if you then turn up and become an advisor and divide people and then later delete your post and then you apologize for creating divisions, that means your education has not come to any work. Your study circles have not, because you suffer from an identity crisis. Are you what is the Bangladesh's identity? Are you a Muslim country? So what is the identity of Muslims? If you want to create a new identity of Bengali Muslims, what is that identity? Okay, tell us, rather than creating divisions and bringing up. So he came up, one of the student advisors came up with this concept of there will be no pro-Indianness and no pro-Pakistani in Bangladesh. Who is a pro-Pakistani in Bangladesh after 1971? That can be no one, because Pakistan is not a factor in Bangladesh at all. It's India. We are surrounded by India. It's Indian media, Indian intelligence, pro-Indian political parties that have always created the problems in this country. So that's what I'm trying to say. The student leaders or the Generation Z leaders, NCP, they have to understand, what do you understand? What is your identity? You determine it. Otherwise, you will be, for example, when they came out with the slogan that Tumi ke ami ke razakar razakar ke boleche shoirachar, which is a very good one of saying, okay, why are you accusing us as razakar? And a fascist is calling us. So you created an identity. You developed an identity that now I am not a razakar, I am a Bangladeshi, and that is my identity. But what is your religious identity? What is your, in terms of where do you want to take Bangladesh forward? What is NCP's ideology? If you don't clarify these points, then you will not go anywhere. Then you will, you will bring up someone else's political rhetoric, and then you will create these problems. I was listening to an interview by one of the NCP leaders. I think her name is Tasnuba, Dr. Tasnuba something. And I was so disappointed that she was not even able to give logic, but she was saying Jamaat or Shibir has to apologize. Why would they apologize? What did they do? What did they do? Any of the the Jamaat Islami Amir, he joined Shibir in 1974, 75. He previously used to do JSD, Jashod. What does he have to apologize for? Okay, so this is the problem, that we have to go forward. How do we take our Bangladesh towards the next 50 years, next 20 years, next 30 years? Rather than looking back 54 years ago, the issue
the advisor that you were referring to, he has apologized for his statement. He has apologized.
Why do you come up with those statements and create divisions? You have already, he said that, it's gone out. You have already done it. You cannot take it back. That's the problem.
We hope our July-August revolutionary unity will never be destroyed by anyone's narrative. This narrative and misportrayal against a particular group of people, demonizing them as at the very worst, will be stopped. We hope all the media who used to demonize these people will actually get a stop over there. They will try to remorse. They will get some sort of understanding. We won't do it anymore. We want to request them not to repeat those old lies which they repeated in the last 16 years. So let it be up to it. We will be once again coming up over here on this very particular show with this great scholar. So thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Show. Goodbye for now. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.